Hi, welcome to the Los Olivos Wine Merchant and Cafe, where you not only get to taste California Central Coast wines, but you also get to meet the winemakers. Today we have Wes Hagen, formerly of Clopepe, now winemaker for j.wilkes Wines. If you haven't met Wes Hagen before, I would lean in very closely and listen to what's ahead. If you have met Wes Hagen before, you're probably already leaning in closely and can't wait to hear what's going to happen in this interview and what Wes has to say, what wise words of
wine wisdom.
Wine wisdom.
There we go.
So, Wes,
yes.
My first question: if you could sum yourself up in one word, more W's there. One word.
Performative. I think that's what sets me apart from a lot of winemakers. A lot of winemakers have the same knowledge I do, the same craft, the same skill of winemaking. I taught high school and college English for a total of about 7 years, and having the skill to be able to engage ninth graders in Shakespeare means I can engage anyone with alcohol. You put a glass of wine down, let's have some fun. So I think performative is a good word. Performative.
Okay.
Yes. Passionate would be my backup.
How about we'll allow you to passionately performative.
Passionately performative is again, that's also some good consonants. So well done.
There we go.
Indeed.
One of the greatest misunderstandings that people have about wine.
That you have to talk about it. I think a lot of people sit down, especially in American culture, and they think somehow that buying a bottle of wine and putting it down on the table and pouring a little glass, you have to smell it, taste it, and talk about it. I think great wine should lead to a conversation about everything except itself. Wine's not egotistical. Wine doesn't have a narcissistic bone in its body. It doesn't care if you talk about it. So I look at wine as being sort of an investment to put a bottle of wine on the table every night and to use wine to keep the people you love at table for an extra hour every day.
So you're not saying necessarily talking and analyzing the wine,
talking about everything,
to talk
but
about life,
absolutely,
to get people to talk.
Any subject except that's one thing that craft beer can teach us. I mean, you can talk about IBUs, you can talk about hops, you can talk about all these things, but I haven't really seen, except sort of in Cicerone circles, a lot of the people who love beer talking about beer the way we talk about wine. So I want to just say, maybe it's time for us to relax a little bit and just pour a glass of wine and let it take us someplace sort of just emotionally and flavor-wise without having to feel like we have to define every little thing about the wine to get the full experience out of it.
I feel like so many times people have to have an opinion, like a strong, like anytime I take a sip of a wine, what do you think? And it's like this pressure to define. I think it's not only the nuances of buttery, oaky,
right.
This, do I like it, do I not like it? Honestly, a lot of times I need to think.
Yeah.
It's more about what we're talking about at the table. But when you do, I mean, it's fun to do that.
It can be.
But it's also intimidating.
It's you got to trust trust yourself. There shouldn't be really anything intimidating about wine. I mean, you hear masters of wine or master sommeliers and talk about wine. That's what they do for a living. That's what I do for a living to a certain extent. But in the end, I think the most important thing is to realize that wine is the vehicle. It's not the trip. Wine is going to take me to relaxation. Wine is going to take me to a place that I can have more time with my people that I care about, my friends, my family, my wife. I normally don't let my dog drink, but if he did, he'd probably want to hang out with me a little bit more too. So it's kind of how it goes.
We were at a dinner party one time. We actually hosted it at our house, and everybody was going around being so serious about tasting the wine, and then it went to my friend tasted it. She's like, "It's yummy."
There you go.
And we all just laughed. It broke the ice, and that was it. Then we talked about the real stuff.
Best tasting notes
yummy.
ever.
Yeah.
And not only that, but wine will take care of itself.
This is yummy.
Thank you.
Very yummy.
One thing I noticed as a kid is my parents would have these fancy dinner parties for a bunch of corporate lawyers, and the corporate lawyers would all show up all buttoned down, very serious, sometimes even a little bit too serious. And as a young child, 7, 8, 9 years old, what I realized is the sound of a popping cork at an adult party signaled that 90 minutes later I could do anything and not get in trouble. That 90 minutes after that first cork is pulled at any party, the laughter comes more quickly, the sound of the house changes, and suddenly I know that, these corporate lawyers are going to be turned in magically into children for 2 hours.
All 4 of these j.wilkes wines will be 20% off online and in our stores. So you can either come in or buy it online and enjoy the special pricing, 20% off. And we will also have a tasting flight available, a lineup of all 4 of these wines, so you can taste them side by side, see which ones you like, see which ones you think are yummier than the others, and you might just love them all and want to take them all home. Also, Wes is going to be joining us during our dinner service at the Los Olivos Cafe on Friday, September 30th, the final Friday, guest winemaker, and he'll be pouring these wines, chatting it up with guests, mingling around, and you can actually talk to Wes and get to know him one-on-one, in person.
Yeah, if you want to talk, that's great. If you want to just sit and talk to the person you brought in to have dinner with, I'll let you do that too. I won't be annoying, I promise. Just had the Chardonnay, by the way, with the gnocchi.
Ooh, I bet
love what you guys do with the gnocchi. Gnocchi's like either perfect or it's a stomach bomb, and yours are just perfect, and they're light
clouds.
and elegant, and they're not stomach bombs. And I ate them all and had a little.
You don't
of the
want
Chardonnay.
a stomach bomb.
No, the Chardonnay I thought matched beautifully with the gnocchi. And if you haven't, come here for the brisket sandwich for lunch, and the pizzas. My goodness. I send a lot of people in for the brisket.
Thank you. And welcome to Los Olivos.
Oh, thank you.
You had your opening for the tasting room
we just
today?
opened our tasting room. Actually, we're doing an industry night. We had a soft opening about 5 weeks ago, and now we're officially open.
Congratulations.
It's very exciting, and not only that, but we just happen to have our tasting room right on top of a very important pokey stop. So if you're out there catching them all, don't forget to taste them all too. And you can start at the clock tower right over by our tasting room and catch yourself a Dragonite and come in and get some Pinot Blanc.
Talk about it.
I don't know much about the game. Someone told me that was the cool thing to say, so that's about all I can say.
And also, congratulations. This is your 1-year anniversary now with j.wilkes.
That's right.
So how's that process
It's been great. I mean, we've had some great successes. Most of these wines are actually house wines currently at the State Department in Washington, D.C. at the Blair House, which is the guest house at the White House. So we call that the Blair Wilkes Project. Little joke.
I like that.
And through the end of the year, these wines will be poured at the State Department in Washington, D.C. to presidents, prime ministers, diplomats, and very important people.
Wow.
So that's a huge thing. So if you want to taste the wines that were used to toast world peace by presidents and prime ministers on the 7th floor of the State Department.
And how would you describe your style for someone who doesn't know anything about Clos Pepe wines, or what your style is? How would you describe that?
In one sentence, because I know we're trying to be keep everyone else.
This is so
great. So you can do this all in one glass of wine. I want to make jazzy wines in a heavy metal age.
Ooh, I like that.
Yes.
Jazzy wines in a heavy metal edge. All right.
Age, yeah. When all the wines are, like so many wines are big, rich, and ripe, I like to make wines that really represent the vineyard, the varietal, and the vintage. And right now we're doing all blended wines to make wines from the AVAs, Santa Maria Valley, Santa Rita Hills. So we don't make vineyard designated wines, but we make wines where we try to really capture the essence of the entire area through numbers of vineyards that we blend together. So if a vineyard designation is like an expensive selfie, we take Ussies. We make Ussies. We're all about putting as many things together, because the more faces you put together, the more vibrant and the more the picture speaks. It is.
Expression.
And it's also less expensive than buying vineyard designated wine. So it's a great introduction to learn about place.
And what's the price point on these wines?
Generally from $18 to $30. We don't make a wine really over $30 retail right now.
Favorite quote that you'd like to share with our guests?
Okay. I have to give it to Gaston Huet, and Huet makes some of the best Vouvray in the world. So he makes Chenin Blanc, right? And he was captured by the Nazis and kept 5 years in a camp. He at the end of his capture, the Nazis let them throw a little party and get some wine from their families back at home. So like 2,700 prisoners got to share like 150 bottles of wine. And just because of the guy Gaston was, he actually decided to drink the worst wine of the bunch. And he drank a wine that he called an oxidized Loire white, so bad he couldn't even tell what varietal it was. And someone said, my God, it must have been the worst wine he's ever tasted. He says, no, it's the second greatest wine I've ever tasted, behind this wine, which was a 1947 Huet Vouvray. And he said, the magic was, and this is, I think, really the way that you should live life, is that hunger is the greatest spice. That wine was the best wine he'd ever had, because he hadn't had wine touch his lips in almost 4 years. And if you haven't drank wine in 4 years, think about how delicious it would be. And that idea that goes also back to my friend Mark Oliver. Hey, Mark. All about the apple pie in front of you is always the greatest apple pie you've ever had. And if it's not, I think you need to kind of check yourself and realize that maybe you're not looking at this life as the miracle it is.
Seizing the day, every moment.
You know, we're on a planet spinning 70,000 miles around the sun, and it feels like we're standing still. Every breath is a miracle. And if you don't see with the eyes of a child, it's time to shut your eyes and let a child be born. That's kind of what Ramakrishna said. And that's about 4 quotes in one. 4 quotes in one. You got an
I knew we'd get one.
Yes, or
at least one out of him.
I can't stop.
Well, this Chardonnay is wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wes.
Always a pleasure.
It's been great. Thank you for
watching.
Indeed. And listening and talking. May this create more great conversation for you.
Indeed.
On September 30th, Wes will be joining us for our final Friday guest winemaker.